And welcome back to my astro imaging journey channel. Got a full night's worth of imaging, about 6 hours worth last night, first time in about a week and a half. Seems to be the theme of the year. But right now, today, as you can see, it's 8:20 in the morning, and I'm going to be practicing for the Mercury transit that's going to be coming up here in November. So what do we have right now? If we look at my camera, you can see the telescope is in the shade. Sun is still behind the tree line there. So let's look at Stellarium and let's see when the sun's going to come up. Well, it's up right now anyways, but when is it going to peek its little head behind the trees? And that's going to be around 9:30. So I got about an hour to kill. Excuse me. So what I'm hoping to do is practice on this today. I know I'm not going to be able to photograph it from the yard, but what I am going, I'm going to have to go somewhere else because the transit's actually going to be happening right at sunrise. So I'm going to lose the beginning of it if I stay here at the house. So I plan on going somewhere else. But in the meantime, what I'm hoping to do is use Sequence Generator Pro, use the focuser and the telescope controls to obviously control the focuser and the telescope. Seems kind of redundant, and then I will use Backyard EOS to do my imaging, and let's hope this works. So I will be back a little bit later. I'll be back a little bit later outdoors. I'm gonna set up another camera, show you guys how I attach my telephoto lens, because that's what I'm going to use. I'm not going to use the Edge. I don't have a solar filter for it, so I'm going to use what I used before. I'm going to use my T6i with my 600mm Sigma telephoto lens with a 2x teleconverter. And that, if we zoom in here, as you can see over here, it's the T6i, but it's roughly the same sensor. 600mm with the 2x teleconverter. That's what I should have when I'm fully zoomed out. That would be without the teleconverter. So I should be able to fill the frame pretty well. Get right in on that sun. So with that, I will be back in a little bit. Alright, so here we are back out at the telescope. I'm going to be putting this guy on. Said I was going to go with the different camera, but I'm going to see if I can get the T6i, since that's astro modified and everything. That's what I want to use for the Mercury transit anyways. I'm going to go ahead and put a cover on here. I was kind of hoping to use this camera here simply because I didn't want to get any dust in here, but it's a pretty calm day, low humidity, so hopefully I can get this swapped out and connected up and minimize the amount of dust. So let's what we have here is the Sigma 150 to 600mm lens, telephoto lens. Works awesome. Last solar eclipse I used this on a tripod and it worked great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mount it to the top here of the telescope, and I also need to go back inside and get my teleconverter. But first, let's get this mounted up. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to show you was the solar filter.
This is a 95mm ring, and this solar filter is from Thousand Oaks Optical, and that's the one I used for the solar eclipse. Worked really well. Relatively inexpensive in the grand scheme of things, but yeah, let's get this mounted up. Okay, so now we got her all mounted up. Try to keep it in line with the plane of the telescope. Lock her down and undo my lock. You noticed I did put the sun shield on here. You know, that's just more for glare than anything else. Yeah, let me go get my teleconverter, pop that up on here, and then we'll get this guy hooked up and I'll be back. Alright, so here's my teleconverter. It's a 2x teleconverter. It's a Kenko Teleplus HD. Works really well. I actually bought it so that I could use that camera there and this telephoto lens for wildlife photography. So you know, doubles the focal length. So this now becomes an effective 1200mm. The EdgeHD with the focal reducer is 1960, and even with that focal reducer, it's just a little bit too much of a far reach to be able to get all of the sun in one frame. It kind of cuts it off, so I want to be able to get the whole sun in frame, but as close as possible. This should do the trick. I haven't tried it yet, but we're gonna learn together, right? That's part of this channel, or the journey, trials, tribulations, all that good stuff, right? So let me get this connected up here. Has a nice little lock on the side. Part of my process as far as photography is concerned is, you know, anytime I put something like this anywhere when I'm changing lenses, I always try to put the caps, you know, this cap here came off of this guy, so I just want to or excuse me, this cap came off the telephoto lens, and I want to keep these. I took the cap off of here and put the cap on the front cover, you know, the front and rear caps together, so I can keep them together in one pocket so that I don't lose them, number one. Number two, helps protect this from getting dust in there, and you know, just helps all around. Helps to keep reduce the need for cleaning dust off your lenses, your glass, and everything. And as we know in astro imaging, you know, dust motes, they're killer when you're doing some imaging. It's not so critical when you're doing some types of photography because you can remove them in post-processing. But in this particular case, we want to try to keep, you know, it's just good practice. Adds a little bit to the workflow, a couple seconds, but you know, it's worth it in my opinion. So now I'm going to have to, now let me pull the USB cord. I can always change that later. Perfect, everything's locked in. So now let's get our USB cord. So right now all I'm going to do is actually I'm going to pull this USB cord because I still have the system connected to the PC inside. So I just want to make sure everything's working. I've got audio, or excuse me, I got video. It's actually pretty dark right now because I haven't, number one, removed that lens cover, and number two, with the solar filter on there, it's just going to look black. So, go into live view. Alright. So now here's the trick. Hopefully everything retained the point modeling in the hand controller, and with it connected to the PC, that it will allow me to still slew to the target. So let me close this. Target being the sun, and as you can see, I'm standing in the sun, so it's clearly above the tree line. So let's see if we can get this moved over. Alright, I'm not even getting Jupiter on here. That is strange. So if I go into solar system, I have Neptune, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Uranus, and back to Neptune. I don't have Jupiter, I don't have Saturn. That is strange. I don't even have the Sun. I'm going to have to figure something else out here. Bear with me for a minute. Okay. What you just saw me there was I loaded up the Sky Map app, and had to do a quick low calibration, but Venus is just to the west and southwest of the sun, so we will point to Venus and then slew back. The tracking should be pretty close, and right now we want to test the rig and make sure everything's good, the camera, the solar filter, all that. So this is just a practice. If this was live, good thing I'm doing it today to find out these little quirks, find out why I don't have the sun down there, So let's slew over to Venus. Just going to switch over to auto exposure real quick. Alright. Little manual control there, but okay. So we got the sun somewhat centered in the frame. It's clearly not in focus. Alright. Fills the frame pretty nicely. Alright, so hopefully the tracking of Venus will be close to what the sun tracking would be. Looks like we are holding steady. So I'm going to flip this back over to manual. Alright, lock that ring in. We're at the 600 mark, so we should be good to go. I am going to run inside, check the PC, make sure we're good to go.
Alright, so we're back inside, and I think I bumped something when I was tightening up the USB cable. I think I might have misaligned the telephoto lens and camera mounted on the top. So let me get recentered here, and we'll be back at it. Alright, so as you can see here, I was using the mount controls from through to SGP to get this centered back up. And yeah, I'm a little overexposed. Got to bring that down a little bit, but there's no sunspots either, so I really can't test focus really. So I'm gonna try, but it without a sunspot or Mercury transiting, something transiting to allow me to see some hard edges, it's going to be kind of tough to really dial in a focus. But as you can see, I'm going to try. But all in all, with that 2x teleconverter, it really does, what's the word I'm looking for? It really does fill the frame, 600 millimeter, it is a crop sensor, so that's, 1.6 times, and then the 2 on top of that. So we are roughly about 1920 effective. For those of you that don't know, DSLRs, you have your full frame sensor and then what they call a crop sensor. The T7, or the T6i that I've got connected up here is a crop sensor. So you have to take your focal length and multiply it by 1.6 to get your effective focal length when compared to a full frame camera. So that would mean I am 600 millimeter on the telephoto lens times the 1.6, and then the 2 times teleconverter on top of that brings me to 1920 effective focal length. And as you can see, the sun fills the frame pretty nicely. So I like that setup. That 2 times teleconverter will also, as well as crop sensor, brings down your effective f ratio. So that's going to bring it down to about 13 or worse from the native f6.3 on the lens at 600 millimeters. So I'm really going to have to play with these exposures to get what I want out of it. But in comparison on that focal length, the EdgeHD is 2800 natively, and with the focal reducer, the 0.7 times focal reducer, that brings it down to a 1960, and then the crop sensor brings it back up to about 3132 millimeters. So yeah, that's some far-reaching stuff. So the sun is just going to fill that frame way too much, and I'm not going to be able to get all of it in the frame like I can with this setup. And I'll be back with some test shots. All right, well, everything's working as I had hoped, so I think this is gonna be a good workflow slash process to capture the Mercury transit. I will have to find a location. Clearly, as I believe I said earlier, the sun's going to be coming up behind the trees. I'm not going to be able to get those early hours, roughly, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours I'm going to miss at the beginning. So I'm going to try to find a location where I can set up and away from the house and be able to get the whole thing. So right now I'm just going to play with some settings on the planetary mode here to capture just a quick little video. By now you probably have seen the ad hoc video. That's what I'm going to be capturing right now. But I'll probably get out there and try it one more time, maybe two more times before the transit occurs in November, just to make sure everything is still the way I think it's going to be. I'm not sure if I'm going to try to use the T6i that normally is connected up to the edge, or if I'm going to go with the 7i. The T6i is looking a little reddish, mainly because I do have it astro modified to get more of the H alpha. I had the IR cut filter removed, so I do get more of the H alpha, the deep red band in there, so it's not the nice yellowish color that we normally see. So what I might do, if everything does align, actually I am going to try this one more time later this summer. I might try just to see if I can get the edge and the telephoto lens aligned enough that I can run both cameras, one on the telephoto and one on the edge, and see if I can get some closer in transit shots with the edge, just to see if I can. I'm not sure how well the two are going to line up though. I might have to do some shimming, we'll see. But that'll be a future video in a couple months. It's part of this journey. I'm going to try something. I'm going to see if I can learn something new and hopefully pass that along to you guys.
Alright, I want to thank you for watching. Everything worked pretty well. Looks like I got my settings pretty well dialed in as far as the camera, the scope, the telephoto lens. Everything was working just fine. No sunspots, so I couldn't really dial in the focus the way I wanted to. But it is what it is today. So hopefully I'll be able to test this one more time, at least one more time before the transit. Again, the transit's on November 11th this year, 2020, and here on the East Coast, specifically North Central Virginia, we should be able to see it from roughly 7:35 in the morning through about 1:05 in the afternoon. So hopefully, I've already put in my vacation day, so hopefully we'll get this thing imaged, and I'm stoked. I can't wait. But everything's working great. So yeah, I want to say thanks everybody for watching again. Really appreciate everybody that subscribes. So please, if you like this video, like this content, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you so choose, ring that bell if you want to get notified when I update something new, and as always, clear skies.
In the upper right, you'll find my latest video. In the lower right, you'll see what YouTube thinks you'll like, and below you'll see the subscription link. Please check them out.